Hello, government students. Let's talk a little bit about representation in the state of Wisconsin, particularly for the House of Representatives, and how districts are set up and how they redo districts every 10 years. 2020 is a census year, and for the last 10 years, our districts have been set up in the way that is shown on the screen. Kenosha is District 1, the House of Representatives in Wisconsin. So you can see that includes Kenosha and Racine and a little bit of the southern portion of Milwaukee, as well as Walworth County, so Lake Geneva and everything out there, out farther past that into Rock County. And so we've got Janesville as part of our district as well. So the representative will represent this entire area. Okay, so you'll notice some of the districts are bigger than others, and that's because the districts are built on population. So Milwaukee as a city is a very small district size-wise, but the population is going to be relatively similar to ours, and that's going to be similar to a large portion of western Wisconsin or the two huge districts in northern Wisconsin. All of them are going to have similar populations as they're set up that way. Okay. There are currently 8 representatives in Wisconsin, and we will see with the census whether that changes, whether we lose a representative or gain a representative, or whether that changes over time. Okay. Um, so our current congressman, our current representative in the House of Representatives is Brian Stile. Okay, and you can see a picture of him right there. He is a Republican. He lives in the city of Janesville, and he represents us. So every state is going to have at least one representative, and that's based on what we saw with the creation of the Constitution. It's based on the population. So some states are going to have fewer. So you see, Vermont has only one, Delaware has only one representative, and you see out west there are 4 states: North and South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. Each only have one, and then as we get throughout the country, it goes up from there. So some Western states only have a few, and then other states like California and Texas and Florida and New York, they have a lot. So California has 53. That is the largest state in terms of representatives. Okay. So, what is going to happen in 2020 is we are going to see, after the number of people who are counted um, is tabulated, we will see some states grow and some states shrink. So in this map, this is showing the change from 2000 to 2010, and every state that is green lost representatives in 2010, whereas every state that is blue gained. Texas gained the most. They gained 4 seats in 2010. So we will see how this changes. In the last few cycles of the census, we have seen more people leaving the North and the Northeast, so and the Midwest, and heading south and west. So this trend is something that's been happening for 20, 30 years, because New York used to be a very, very large state in terms of representatives. They used to have about 40, but over time, that has shrunk as people have moved farther south. All right. So when it comes to representation, each congressman represents approximately 690,000 people on average. The number of people Congress people represented a few years ago or decades ago was significantly lower, but what happened is this Reapportionment Act of 1929. Uh, Congress had gotten to the point where the House of Representatives was 435 people. So Congress passed the law to make it so there would not be more members, because if the chamber grew anymore, it would be difficult to have discussion and debate about different proposed laws. So they decided to make it so the amount of representatives was fixed at 435. The drawback to that then is, as the country grows, the number of representatives doesn't grow. So each of us as individuals, our representative can give us less time and effort because there are more and more people that they're trying to help and service. So this when the census happens, and when all the people are counted in the country, the next step after the census is reapportionment. And this is, as you can see here, simply redistribution. We already talked about this concept. It's where some of the representatives will move from place to place. Now, the person doesn't move, but the representation moves. So new districts might be created, or old districts might go away. So the reapportionment that will occur after the census. And so again, you have the seats in Congress moving, particularly the House of Representatives moving from state to state after the census. And again, so this is in 2000. You see the same trend that I already mentioned. States in the Midwest and the Northeast losing seats as population shifts to the South. And then again, the map we already saw in 2010. When it comes to the districts, each district has one representative. We vote for one person, and either they win or they lose. If you lose, you get nothing. In some places around the world, you vote for multiple positions, or even in some of our own elections in our community. For example, our school board oftentimes will have 2 or 3 seats open for election, and people vote for a couple of people, and the top 2 or 3 vote getters, depending on how many seats there are, they win. That's not the case when it comes to Congress. You vote for one person, and it's winner take all. Even if you don't get a majority, even if you get 10% of the vote, if you're running against a bunch of other people who only get 9% of the vote, you win the election. District must be a contiguous territory. That means it must be all in one piece. If there are islands in the middle of a lake or an ocean, that is a qualifier where they'll have to have some sort of connection to the land they're part of, or the state they're part of. But if something is landlocked, if area is landlocked, it must have a continuous territory. There must be an equal number of people, as I mentioned. Right now, we are represented, the 690,000 people are represented by each representative. Over time, that will increase as more people are born or move into this country. So, as long as the number stays relatively equal, it doesn't have to have the exact same number, but it must be within a pretty narrow range to qualify for the district. It must be a compact territory, a small area. Now, this is dependent on the state. Some states are very clear about these laws, others are not as clear, and that can create some murky situations, as we'll see in a minute. So generally, the states have to be continuous. They have to have an equal number of people. And in many states, there are laws that say there must be a compact territory. But even with a compact territory, we're going to see that sometimes politicians like to take advantage of their power to create a situation that's advantageous to them. And they do that through a process we call gerrymandering. Now, gerrymandering you see on this picture, this is a couple hundred years old. This is early 1800s. A district was drawn that went around one of the states, and you see all these counties. They kind of snake along, and the people who were taking note of this district that was created were, they called it, they said it looked like a salamander, and the guy who made this, his name is Gary, but they renamed it Jerry, oddly enough, and they called it gerrymandering. And basically, what gerrymandering is, it's when politicians try to draw the district lines in a way that will be advantageous to them. It's a way that will be beneficial to the politicians. Okay. They do this to make it so that the opposition will win fewer seats and they will win more seats. Okay, so you concentrate the opposition voters to fewer districts and you spread the opposition as thinly as possible in others. So some districts will be 100% or 90% of the opposing party, and that means there's very few members of the opposing party in the other districts, so your own political party can win. If you're just caring about power, it's brilliant, but it is not very democratic at all, because what ends up happening is the politicians are choosing the voters instead of the voters choosing the politicians. So we have some examples here of this happening. So you've got in Arizona, right outside Phoenix, you've got a district that is connected with this area just north of the Navajo Nation, but you see this thin connection. Like, these are not continuous areas. You drive through another district or two before you get to the section that's connected. This is gerrymandered it's created in a way that will be advantageous to the party that created these lines and harmful to the other party. So District 1 is surrounding this green section, but there's a thin line that comes through to that section for District 2. Okay, Wisconsin, even though our lines look pretty clean here, these lines are actually drawn by the Republican Party in 2010 to make it so the Republicans gained a seat in the House of Representatives, and it took away a seat from the Democrats. The way they did that is before, um, there were two districts right around Milwaukee that were predominantly Democratic, and the lines were drawn in a way that Milwaukee had two representatives, and oftentimes the Democrats would win. When the Republicans won the election in 2010 and redrew the lines, they made it so Milwaukee as a city is one district, and uh, there is a small, tiny piece of Milwaukee in the southern part that was absorbed into one. And while Kenosha and Racine have um, a fairly even or democratic leaning population west of the interstate, the rest of District 1 is very conservative. So that means 1 oftentimes will vote more conservative. Same thing with 5. Even though a tiny part of the city of Milwaukee on the western side and the northern side is absorbed in this district, rest of District 5 is a very conservative Republican district. So that means 5 and 1 have voted Republican, even though 5 before, what existed before, probably would have been more of a Democrat district. Okay, so this went through the legal system, and the Supreme Court said that yes, this was a gerrymandered district, but they couldn't really do anything about it because they didn't want to step in and make political decisions that would help or hinder certain political parties. In Illinois, you see along the Mississippi River, they also have a district that goes, quite a ways through the state, even though it surrounds District 18, and even there are some spots from the far north of the district to the far south. You drive through 5 separate districts to get from the northern section to the southern section of this district in Illinois for 17. And then the one that everyone loves for Congressional District 4 in Illinois, this is right outside of Chicago, or part of Chicago even. You've got this northern section, and it's just a really thin line all the way out to Interstate 294. There are no voters on the interstate, but that is what connects that section and the southern section. We call this the earmuff district because of what you see in the south and the north. And the justification that the Democrats in Illinois give for this is they want to take the Latino populations and put them together. But when we look at the lines, it's not contiguous, and it is the politicians drawing the lines in a way that benefits them. So this is not one political party that does this. It's not just the Republicans. It's not just the Democrats. In many states across the country, whichever party is in power, if they have the control to create the lines in the districts, they have done so to their own advantage. Why is that problematic? Think about that. But they can be problematic in that It means that the people aren't able to hold the politicians accountable if they create districts that are overwhelmingly Republican or overwhelmingly Democrat. So again, like I said before, the politicians are choosing the voters that will keep them in office instead of the people holding the Democrats and Republicans in um, like the holding them accountable if they disagree with them, because if it's overwhelmingly one party, it's hard for the other party to offer an alternative if the votes aren't going to switch because of how the districts are drawn.